With the second pick, the New York Jets select
Zach Wilson has the highest potential maybe I've seen since I've been evaluating quarterbacks. That might seem like hyperbole, but he is that good. He has that much potential. His ceiling is that high. Now, some people might argue, isn't a lot of that just because he plays for BYU? He's not going through the same competition as Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence had to go through. And there is some truth to that, but I would counter that by saying, I make my evaluations by watching film. I watched every game Zach Wilson played. I'm not really looking at the numbers. I'm more so looking at how well he actually played and taking everything into account. So with that being said, these are my thoughts. Real quick though, before we get too far into this, you're going to notice there is a bit of some inconsistent audio. It might only come into one ear if you're on headphones for just a little bit, for about the first half of the video when I talk about the film study. So that might be a little issue. But other than that, anyways, let's just get into it. And I think the first thing we have to talk about is just his ability to make these highlight reel level throws. I mean, he's making these Patrick Mahomes level throws in college, across the body, 50 yards down the field. Let's talk about some of them. We'll start off with this one. So it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and there's a receiver running a go route. This is the 3rd down and 3. So one safety deep, you have a one-on-one matchup on the outside. This is an opportunity that plenty of NFL teams would like to see a quarterback be able to make. Watch. Wilson's going to take the snap, and he is going to make this throw, and you see that there is some separation, but again, it's not wide open. So this is the kind of thing that you almost expect an NFL quarterback to at least make somewhat consistently, say like 6 or 7 out of 10 times. And Zach Wilson, honestly, he's just as good at making these throws as any NFL quarterback. Maybe not any NFL quarterback, but a lot of NFL quarterbacks. He's really good at it. Watch, beautiful throw, even if the receiver ends up not hauling it in. It was a great throw. This one's another good example where it's going to be, in this situation, it's 3rd down and 15, and Houston is really kind of going for something to give them the ball back, because they're down 3 points here late in the 4th quarter, and for BYU, they could easily just run out the clock and kick a field goal, but that's still a 1-score game, so they want a touchdown, and Houston only has one safety deep here. They're going with a blitz. There's, again, a one-on-one matchup, so this is an opportunity for Wilson to take a chance. Again, Wilson's going to take the snap, and he is going to eventually make this throw, and once again, I pause it right here, because you see where he has to throw it. He pretty much has to throw it above the corner, but again, something that can work. There definitely is enough separation for this play to work. And it's just exactly where you'd want it to be. Perfect throw and a good catch for a touchdown. This play might have been my favorite play I saw from him, where I can't even exactly tell what coverage it is. It's some sort of prevent defense though, because there's 38 seconds left. BYU, only 1 timeout left, so they can still drive the ball, but it's some sort of prevent right here, and there's a receiver who's running a deep route. He's the only guy who's going to try and get into the end zone. Wilson takes the snap. Despite just a 3-man rush, there's a bit of pressure, so Wilson's going to have to actually move up a little bit towards the top of the screen, and now he wants to throw it all the way to his left. So this is going to be a very difficult throw to make. He's throwing across his body, which people say never throw across your body, and we can't see what's happening, but there is a player open in that area, which is why Wilson wants to make this throw. It's just a difficult throw to make. But watch how he still chucks it across his body, 50 yards down the field for a touchdown. I actually did the math to figure this out. It looks like it was about, due to where he was on the hash marks and where the receiver was on the hash marks, it was about 20 yards, I would say, in that direction. Also, you have 50 yards down the field. So, as I learned in school, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we're talking about 53, 54 yards down the field across his body, off balance. Just a ridiculous throw from Zach Wilson. Personally, where I struggle the most in evaluating quarterbacks is football IQ. I have a real hard time really figuring out exactly how well it's going to translate to the NFL. And the comparison I think I would use is that it's almost like you're trying to evaluate who would be good at the board game Risk, and the only way you can evaluate that is by watching people play chess. if you're good at chess, you're probably going to be good at Risk too, but the games are really just that different. I mean, there's so much differences, and the NFL game is so much more complex. It's hard to really know exactly what his football IQ is, but at the same time, when we have seen moments where there have been some complex coverages, I feel like he's done pretty well. So, I think this play is a good example. It's setting up like it's going to be a cover 2, but it isn't. This is actually a cover 0 right here that UTSA is playing, which means that it's really, I think, a good disguise. This is kind of an NFL level disguise, honestly. You see Kansas City will do this from time to time, where the 2 safeties who you would think would maybe be hanging back are actually going to instead take away eligible receivers, and 2 players who are lined up with eligible receivers rush the passer. And because of this disguise, and because it being cover 0, this is sometimes how you can get a free rusher to Zach Wilson, and your hope is that, hey, let's just confuse him and force him to make a mistake. And it's also important to remember the situation right here. So it's a 3rd down and 8 with about 5 minutes and 5.5 minutes left in the game, and BYU is up 8 points. So all they need is a field goal to win it right here. So for Wilson, he could try a shorter route, but that would create like a 4th down and 4. Who knows if you want to go for it or not, and hopefully he would know if they're going to go for it on 4th down or not, depending on how far it is down the field. And that can maybe help impact the decision. But really, he just wants to get the 1st down, and the only real way to do that would probably be by throwing to the receiver all the way towards the bottom of the screen, as it's a one-on-one matchup and good things can happen there. So Wilson takes the snap, and you're going to notice that there is a player in the backfield who's completely wide open. I'm not sure exactly what happened here. I think there was some sort of miscommunication because no one covered the halfback. He has nobody on him, and Wilson could have easily thrown it there, and that might have been a touchdown. So if you want to criticize that, I honestly just don't think you can, because how was Wilson supposed to know that there was going to be a blown coverage? He read the play immediately, read it was cover 0, and it's now looking towards the player that he probably should throw to in a cover 0. It just so happens that there was they won the lottery on another route, but he can't expect that, and he has no time to make this decision. So I still think this is a great decision, even if there was a more open guy. I think it would be crazy for him to be able to see that. So Wilson chucks one up, and it's a good sort of back shoulder throw, giving his receiver a chance type play. And I also think it's worth mentioning, if that was an interception, it's not really that big of a deal. If that was an interception, it hurts you in field position a little bit. You can't punt it, but that's pretty much it. It's 3rd down and 8. If it's 4th down and 8, you're still gonna punt the ball away. So it's just about 20 yards of field position, and the catch means they basically win. So easily the smart decision there for Zach Wilson, and something that you see a lot of, even NFL players not make. Another thing is his pocket presence. Like on this one, you see that there's a one-on-one matchup with the left guard. Basically, I'm highlighting that to show that because there's going to be immediate pressure right there. Watch, Wilson takes the snap, and there is immediate pressure. And one of the things I've heard in a negative way towards Wilson is, well, he plays for BYU, playing against bad teams. So, things like when there's pressure in the NFL, that might get to him. But his pocket presence is great in college. He's been able to figure out exactly how to move around guys in college. Is it different in the NFL? Sure, but I would still say that if you're great at it in college, there's a better chance you'll be great at it in the NFL than if you're bad at it in college. Watch how he immediately reads it, steps aside, and is able to make that throw. I don't know how he saw the pressure right there. I mean, great peripherals by Zach Wilson. Just incredible. So there we go. Zach Wilson. Perfect. Great prospect. Nothing wrong with him. Draft him over Trevor Lawrence. Fantastic. Okay, no. I'm being sarcastic. Not really. There are some issues with his game, and I think there was some real issues that came up the first couple of weeks in his game where you saw him kind of struggle with throwing over the middle. Not necessarily off towards the sides, but really just over the middle on these, post routes, crossing routes, things of that nature, were, especially against play action, or excuse me, when they were running play action, there was just some issues there, and I don't know if it's fair to blame him entirely or to blame the BYU offense, but that's really kind of how I feel like other teams, they saw some blood in the water. So like right here, for example, what's going to happen is it's a cover 3 zone, they're running a play action, and they have a receiver who's going to run a route that, this can work against cover 3. It's sort of in that middle area of the field. You get players to move in because of the play action, throw it over the top. pretty simple concept. Watch. Once this play starts, you see Wilson, and also it looked like the play action kind of was a weird bust. The back went one way, he faked the handoff the other way. I think what might have happened is number 4 just went over because he wanted to pick up the blitz. So looks like that was actually just a good blitz pickup by the back, but shouldn't have worked as a play action. That's one small thing, not really that important. What is important is this situation. You can kind of see how this play could work, but it's difficult, right? The player I've circled in black, the Boise State player, he's currently in front of the receiver that Wilson wants to hit, so it is going to be kind of a difficult throw. Wilson can try to throw over the top of him, but again, it's difficult. And on this play, it ends up getting tipped. Good defensive play by 53 there, and also, maybe Wilson could have thrown it higher. I think that he probably should have thrown it higher. Obviously, it got tipped, so clearly it wasn't high enough, but at the same time, it is a difficult throw to make, and I think this is something that maybe opened up some eyes for certain teams. Like this one's going to be another example of really what's a very similar thing. It's going to be a cover 3 zone blitz this time, so similar but slightly different. One less player over the middle of the field, and there's a blitz. But again, Wilson runs a play action, wants to throw over the middle. That's what's going to happen here. But when this play starts, the play action doesn't work, and Wilson ends up throwing it in what should have been an interception. There was pressure, so that's part of it. But, that's kind of one of the real ways I would say Wilson has struggled is over the middle, especially when he runs a play action and it doesn't work. It seems like he hasn't done a great job at reading that and adjusting correctly, which is an issue. So what do you do if you're playing an offense that is elite at deep passes over the middle of the field or off to the side, but they can struggle in sort of the shallower areas, the 15 to 10 yard area over the middle of the field? What's the best way to counteract that? Well, we just saw Tampa Bay do something very similar against Kansas City, where they ran 2 safeties for pretty much the entire game. And honestly, that's how some college teams decided to attack Zach Wilson. They decided to say, hey, let's run a lot of 2 safety deep coverages and see if it can work. And for a second, it did slow him down. Okay, so we'll start right here. It was really in that Houston game that I felt like I really saw a team come out, and they played a lot of cover 2, and that's actually how Houston got a decent lead. They got about a 12-point lead on BYU before BYU came back, and it was because of this 2 safety deep coverage. So Wilson takes the snap, and he's gonna want to go deep right here, but the issue is just that when he throws it deep, I mean, look at this, there's no separation here. This is double coverage. He should not have made this throw. Admittedly, we don't know exactly what it looked like when he decided to make the throw, but clearly right now, this was a mistake and a throw that never should have been made. And as you see, it ends up falling incomplete. There was a flag, so, that happened, but at the same time, not a good decision, even if, it ends up with the flag right there being a key thing. However, as I said, Houston was able to slow BYU down a little bit, but if you look at the final stat line for Wilson, he ended up with 4 touchdowns. BYU was able to put a ton of points on the board. And the reality of the situation is just that even if there's 2 safeties deep, there's still plenty of ways to beat that. They would do something like this, where you have multiple players run deep on one side of the field, and the hope is that the safety, really the hope would be that the safety runs over the middle so Wilson can throw it towards his right. And once this play starts, you notice that there is a window right here for Wilson to make this throw. And it's also just an incredible throw. I mean, look at the zip on that ball. Getting it there, perfect accuracy, and getting there in a hurry. Just an incredible throw from Wilson. You also can absolutely still make plays like this work. Cover 2 zone, have a receiver run over the middle. I know there were some issues with these kind of plays early on, but I do feel like BYU got better at these types of things, and they're just still able to make something like this work. Watch. Wilson takes the snap. There is going to be good time here. Good job at a line. It was only a 3-man rush, and also you see that there is easily someone's open right here. I mean, this is just a really good job by Zach Wilson. Find an open guy, be patient, and also just kind of shows that, hey, if you're going to rush 3 and you're going to try to have 2 safeties deep, you need pressure as well for these things to work, which didn't really work out as well. And also, I thought Wilson did a good job of sort of adjusting to what he wasn't as good at and doing a better job at being good at it. So it was a good job by the entire team, but it was also a good job by Wilson. And also, one like this, just because a team is playing cover 2 doesn't mean you can't go deep. It means it's more difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't. And what they were able to do is, you notice how a safety is kind of close to the middle of the field, so they're going to go towards the sideline. They're going to try and get outside the numbers because they just assume that the safety won't be able to get over there in time. And you might get a little lucky with the fact that a player over the middle of the field might try to pass off that receiver who's running deep because he knows he has safety help behind him, but due to it being difficult for the safety to get over there, you could get an opening. Watch, once this play starts, Wilson, does a good job, I thought, of sort of looking the safety over the middle a little bit, and now, again, you have someone wide open. So, just a great job of knowing what your opponent is doing and doing great stuff to counteract it. And it's a perfect throw from Wilson, which allowed for nearly a touchdown on this play. Now, I know some of you might sort of sit here and say, that's more good on BYU than good on Zach Wilson. They just made the right adjustments, but Wilson, honestly, a lot of those throws were pretty wide open guys. But my point is that those guys are getting wide open because of Wilson's deep ball. Teams are so afraid of it that it opens the door for other things, and it makes it kind of predictable. And when your opposition is predictable, that's just great for business, and that can make being a quarterback far, far easier. And honestly, another thing you can do that I didn't show in the film study is you can just run the ball. So having Zach Wilson could open the door for a running game, and that might be a thing. If you're the Jets and you decide to select Zach Wilson, maybe get a running back too. Work on your running game as well, because that could be a great way to sort of counterbalance each other in a real positive way, I would think. Honestly, the only other issue I kind of have with Wilson is it's really small. There are some small things I can point to with Zach Wilson, some minor areas, minor nitpicks, I would say, that maybe won't work in the NFL level. So there's this, it's a cover 3 zone, and you see how this concept is supposed to work. A receiver runs a deep route, takes away the deep corner on the, top left-hand corner of the screen, which is Wilson's right, and then you have another receiver who just tries to get past the middle of the field area and then get open. And when Wilson takes the snap, you notice that this is a risky throw for him to make. Depending on how well of a read this defensive player makes, this can be the difference in a 12-yard completion or a pick 6, quite frankly. I mean, we saw Brady throw some pick 6s with a very similar thing, and it's something that it can work in college. It doesn't really work as well in the NFL. Certainly not as high percentage as it does in college, and so I do think that is something that maybe he's going to want to try and get out of his game, and you might see him throw an interception like this or two when he's a rookie. This time it works, but if that's Jair Alexander or something, then it probably doesn't work. So that's just one of those things he'll have to learn. This one's another good example, and it kind of goes to what could be a negative in his pocket presence, although, I do think that's as a whole a positive, where there could be some negatives. There's going to be pressure off the edge right here against the left tackle. Wilson takes the snap. There is immediate pressure, and so, now he's in trouble, but Wilson, he trusts his ability to get out of these things, and that's kind of something that I'm not sure if he should fully trust, because again, in college, you can kind of sidestep some defensive tackles, some defensive ends. In the NFL, they're all going to be as fast as you, so it's not really as easy to do that. On this one, you're going to see him try to make a move and just end up getting brought down. It reminds me of a Joe Burrow play we saw against Cleveland, where a very similar thing happened. Joe Burrow, he was under pressure, and he thought he could make a move, do a spin move, and it did not work out. Now, I just don't think that's a big deal, if I'm being honest. I just don't. I mean, you can say that about every single quarterback in the league. Don't get me wrong, it's something he is going to have to work on. Those are things that he'll probably just have to make some mistakes at in his rookie year at the NFL level to sort of learn what he can and can't do. So there is that kind of project element. But name me a quarterback you can't say that about. It's by far and away the exception, not the rule, for a quarterback to come in and not make rookie mistakes. I mean, in fact, I can't think of an example. Even some great rookie quarterbacks that have come in and had a great first season, you think about like Justin Herbert last year, Deshaun Watson, while they had great seasons, they still did make their fair share of rookie mistakes as well. So he has some things he has to learn, but not much more than anyone else who you could draft. So it doesn't really affect my draft stock too much. I trust that he will be able to, I trust he'll be able to figure it out. I just do. I don't think it'll matter that much. And speaking of things that don't matter that much, there is one more thing that I feel like I have to talk about, even though I quite frankly couldn't care less about this subject, but I know people do care, and I want to talk about what people are talking about, because my sort of mindset is I want to show you the information, and while I'm giving my opinion, I feel like, Roger Ebert talked about in a film review how if you're a good film reviewer, then someone who watched a negative review or read your negative review, they could then go on and still say, I want to see that movie, even though you gave it a negative score. I feel similar about how I want to do these evaluations. I want to give you enough information to, even though I am positive on Wilson, you can watch this video, know nothing about Wilson, and say, I wouldn't draft him. Because opinions do come into play here. So this is where it all started. There was this tweet that went out by a guy named Rich, who I had never heard of before, and that's no shot. I'm sure he has never heard of me before. But he talked about how on Get Up ESPN, they brought up that Zach Wilson was not a team captain. Players voted for 8 team captains in 2020, 4 on offense, 4 on defense, and Wilson was not on it. He was on the leadership council, and then asked, is that a red flag? And then hashtags Jets, so I'm assuming that's, because the Jets might take him second overall. But then defensive back Troy Warner, who said, as one of 8 captains, I can without hesitation say that Zach is one of them, and then he even goes on to praise Wilson's leadership abilities. So that's certainly good for Wilson's draft stock, I would say. But it also brings up the question, why did people think that he wasn't a team captain? People even showed clips of him from this year with the C. This is the thumbnail image. He's wearing a C in that, so why did anyone think that he wasn't the captain? Well, actually, he wasn't. Look at this image. This is what BYU tweeted out when they had their initial captains, and you see there's the 8 guys, and clearly Wilson is not one of them. So, Wilson wears number 1. No one else wears number 1 there. So what's going on? I found this one doing some digging because I was really interested in just getting to the bottom of this. And what happened was, I'll read the quote. We did some voting, but it is kind of a log jam because there were 8 guys who all received about the same amount of votes. We're going to look at it. I think the new rule is only 1 player goes out for a coin toss, so it's more about established leaders. I think we have a good group of leaders, and that is a good problem to have. We'll release the names of the captains in the next little bit. So this is right before the captains. And when it says about 8 guys with the same amount of votes, I believe that's not saying that all 8 captains are the 8 guys. I believe what they're saying is there are 8 guys with about the same number of votes, and probably some guys who got way more than that, so there's just kind of weird tie thing. Keep in mind that Zach Wilson was fighting for a starting job at this time, so honestly, when I found out all this, it totally seems completely reasonable, right? I mean, doesn't this just totally make sense that, Zach Wilson, someone who was fighting for a starting job, kind of didn't quite get a ton of votes to make him clearly a captain early on, but then once they found out he was the starting quarterback, they made him a captain, and he thrived in the role. I don't really get what the big deal is here. I don't get why people care about this stuff, if I'm being honest. I mean, we're all just... This is what drives me crazy about the NFL media, is I try my best to only talk about what I know. So I talk about what I know. I talk about what I can see on tape, because you can't deny that. And while intangibles are a real thing, leadership qualities and how hardworking someone is, all of that, of course, it matters. Of course it matters. But you can't really quantify it. And at this point, we're just speculating on who Zach Wilson is as a person. I care less about that. I care more about who he is as a football player, which is incredible. So yeah, I say draft Zach Wilson. Not really that hot of a take right there. I still haven't done my evaluation on Fields or Lawrence yet. I haven't watched all of their most recent seasons, so I got to do that before I'm going to make videos on them, and I can't say where I would put him with those guys just yet. So, a little bit hanging back, but his potential it's through the roof. It really is. His potential is MVP, and that's what you're getting, and there is some bust potential as well. There absolutely is. There's always bust potential with every quarterback. There's always bust potential. Lawrence probably has the lowest, although, again, I haven't watched his entire most recent season yet, so don't take my word for it yet. But I do think that Zach Wilson, he's probably going to be great, I think. I feel pretty confident in saying that. It just so happens there's a lot of other good quarterback prospects this year, so interesting stuff. But yeah, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, Thanks for watching.